Welcome to Speakernomics, the official podcast of the National Speakers Association. I'm Kenneth Kinney, but friends call me Shark. And like you, I'm a professional speaker and I love listening to Speakernomics. Speakernomics is a professional speaker show that will help you thrive and grow a speaking business so you too can change the world. One keynote session, workshop, and speech at a time. And on this episode, we welcome Dr. Lisa Jenkins Brown. She's a speaker, a cultural strategist with a doctor of ministry and world religion, a lead pastor, an adjunct professor, an author, and she previously, when she worked on Wall Street, was the voice of the American Stock Exchange. Lisa, with all those accolades, welcome to Speakernomics. How are you today?
Thank you, Kenneth. I'm doing well. Thank you so much. How are you doing today?
I'm drying. I'm gonna get tired from reading all your accomplishments that I haven't gotten to yet. So now to all my speaking friends, how do you rethink your business when the tides change? Whatever your topic, the way to include everyone has to be thought about even from a cultural perspective. You've got a speech today in New York? Great, that's one group. Then how do you pivot to help include everyone with an audience in Orlando or Vegas or even Bali? What means a lot to one group may not mean the same to another, but that meeting planner, all those meeting planners, want us to include not a few, not some of the audience, but all. And before we jump in, make sure to go to Speakernomics.com. That's where you can find the tips, insights, and knowledge to help you become a better speaker, build a better business, and get paid to speak. Lisa, let's dive in. From a tactical standpoint, how do you go about planning a speech to cultivate that relationship with your audience so that everyone's included, regardless of where it is you're delivering a speech all over the world?
That's an excellent question. One of the things that I think that we need to understand is that we are researchers by nature. Global speakers, professional speakers are researchers. We research topics, we write about those topics, and we speak about those topics. We generally research the organizations that we are going to speak for or present to. But when we're talking about including audiences that are global, we have to make sure that we are taking it a step further. We have to research the region. We have to research the country. We have to research the population. What are the demographics? What are the world views? What sort of things are unique for that particular setting that may be totally different? One of the things that sometimes we do is we make these assumptions that everyone has the same work ethic. For instance, people talk about burnout and how we have to make sure that we take it easy and how burnout is bad and slow down. We have to understand that in some countries, in some societies, slowing down, anything less than a grind, is looked at with shame in some places. Anything less than really working hard and making sure that you are towing the line with your coworker, with your team, that's looked at as a no-no. So we have to make sure that we understand the cultural norms that are prevalent in that particular region, wherever it is, whether it's across the country. I mean, I'm here based in New York. I also have a place in Charleston, South Carolina. So whether it's in New York or Charleston, which are extremely different, or whether it's across the country in Montana or Oregon or New Mexico, we have to look at the demographics. We have to examine the population as well as looking at that website and researching the company.
How do you go about doing that before a speech? What do you do to help prep either yourself or conversations with the audience beforehand to deliver a speech that connects?
Yeah. Another excellent question. In addition to what I just said earlier, as far as doing the research, not just on the company, but the demographic research on the population and the cultural norms, one of the things that you can do is cultivate a real relationship with the coordinator, with your point person, and ask that individual questions, dialogue about what's going on, dialogue about what's happening in that particular community. Another thing is to ask the point person if they can recommend maybe 2 to 3 individuals, or maybe 3 to 4, however many you feel comfortable with. If they could recommend individuals who do not mind having a pre-conversation, a pre-presentation conversation, or a survey, even if you want to do it that way. Oftentimes we have post-presentation surveys, but you might want to do a pre-presentation survey so that you can get an idea and get a feel for the individuals. And if you feel really comfortable with the point person, and you should, because you've developed a relationship, you've cultivated a relationship already with that individual, you might want to ask them to give you diverse people, or as diverse as possible, because we're very diverse in our country here in the United States. That might not be the case in other places across the world. But to ask them if they could perhaps give you individuals that you can dialogue with, so that you can get a better feel for the audience.
Do you get much pushback on that?
I've not gotten much pushback. In fact, I don't remember getting any pushback for that. If anything, the coordinators are actually pleased that I want to go that extra mile in order to ensure that I'm able to connect with their audience. So, they've oftentimes been extremely, in fact, I don't want to say, I cannot remember anyone giving me that sort of pushback. People have been extremely open to that. One of the other things that I've done is with the coordinator, I will ask the coordinator, if I'm going to do breakout groups, for instance, if we can break people up into diverse groups. And that has worked out well. I don't have to think about that. That's on the company, that's on the organization and the coordinator. And when I tell you that when I've done that, it works out so well, because now we've got this great synergy of innovative ideas, creative ideas from people who probably would not have come together and worked together before. And now they're doing this, and so they can see just how great the outcome is.
What do you want speakers, especially those who may talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, to think about considering, especially as it relates to how the tides change? Today's focus for some may not be the same for others, political climate or not. It's something that you have to think about, especially as it relates to your speaking business.
Yeah, Kenneth. I mean, that's a reality. It's a reality for speakers, presenters, trainers, one that we have to really deal with and tackle. I'm going to say that you have to go with who you are, and let me explain that. You have to go with your own belief, your own stance, your own purpose. What is your purpose as a speaker? Are we just speaking about a topic because it is a topic that we think is going to just generate lots of money? Or are we speaking on a topic that we feel strongly about and that resonates in our spirit? That's what's important to me. I'm a firm believer that the world has no shortage of money. I'm going to repeat that, Kenneth. I'm a firm believer that the world has no shortage of money. And that if I stay true to my purpose, that somehow or another, I will be able to continue earning money, that I will be sustained, that I will continue to have a roof over my head and eat 3 meals a day at least, including dessert. And so let me just let me give you an example. So I do speak on DEI. I speak on unconscious bias. I speak on multicultural strategies, multicultural communication. That's what I do as an adjunct professor and as a trainer and as a keynote presenter. With this changing climate that we're looking at, this very week, I received a call from a corporation, a major corporation that's actually at the top of its field, asking me to put together an entire day's worth of training on site for them as it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion and social and corporate social responsibility as it relates to procurement. And so that lets me know, okay, that lets Lisa know that I'm doing the right thing. Now, I might have to do some other things. I might have to put some courses together on communications, which I teach also at the university. I might have to put some courses together for some other things when it comes to multicultural studies overall, globally, what have you. As an instructor and a trainer and a professor, I can do this. But my passion has always been inclusion, even before I knew what DEI was. My passion has always been those who are on the margins, those who have been excluded in this world. That's Lisa. And so if I stay true to Lisa, I'm a firm believer that doors will continue to open for Lisa. And I believe that for anyone that follows their path and their purpose full heartedly.
So tell us what you're going to be talking about at Thrive in 25.
Well, Thrive. Thrive, I'm going to be talking about the culture connection. The culture connection. 7 components. And I know that generally when you're giving a keynote, they say three key points and be done. What I'm doing is I'm giving a little bit of a taste test. The culture connection deals with the C, which is cultivating a relationship. The U, which is understanding first to be before you're going to be understood, understanding others. The L is listening, not with your ears, but with your heart, with your eyes, surveying, listening with your mind. What have you already researched? Tackling those tough truths that we don't want to deal with. Because the only way that we can overcome obstacles is to tackle tough truths. Be brave about it. You unleash the unknown. What are we fearful of? What is it that's holding us back from embracing one another, even though there might be differences? The R, recognize the differences. They're there. We see that people are different. It's okay. That's how we break down barriers, is to learn and deal with others. And E is elevating. We've got to elevate one another, because when you elevate your neighbor, your team member, your coworker, whoever it is, you are elevating yourself. There's no way that you can elevate someone else and not elevate yourself, because when you're elevating, you're touching. And when you're touching and holding on, that means you're going higher as well. That means you are ascending as well. And so this whole idea of the culture connection is, how can we as speakers, global speakers, how can we as global speakers change, not just I don't want to say change the culture, but how can we elevate the culture so that we can meet each and every person in our audience at their point of need? That's what's so important, meeting people at their point of need. And that's what I want to talk about at Thrive this year.
Now for a little speaking trivia. What is the largest convention center in North America? Back with the answer in just a moment. Before we jump back to the show, here's a moment with NSA member and the first ever national champion of the Last Story Standing competition, Jeff Rogers. Jeff, what does being part of NSA mean to you in your speaking business?
My first experience with NSA came about a year ago. So I've been in NSA for about a year. And I literally walked into that meeting, heard people talking, and I said, I found my people. This is after 30 years of being on stage in front of audiences, to really have the conversations and the depth of knowledge available just at the local chapter meeting, let alone the national, with the vault and all the meetings and Influence and Thrive. It's just absolutely incredible to discover this wealth of knowledge and community. When they talk about the spirit of Cabot, which I've just become aware of, as a new member, I thought, wow, that is 100% the right name. I just have this feeling of, if I need help, anybody who's NSA is somebody I can reach out to. And I'm hopefully embodying that as well. I want to be one of those people who, if people feel like, I could use a hand with this, that they would feel open to reaching out to me. So those are the things. I think that the knowledge, the community, and just the overall intention of supporting all of those people that we speak to helping them, to spreading that message that will change their lives and impact their future. That's a pretty great calling.
And here's the answer. With over 2.6 million square feet of exhibit space, Chicago's McCormick Place is the largest and considered by many to be the most flexible convention center in North America. And now, back to the show. Well, Lisa, I want to ask you a question from a previous guest. We're going to talk about the sticky point you want people to remember. When your speech is done, what do you want the audience to say your speech was about? What do you want to come out of their mouth next?
I want the audience to think I want them to leave thinking that I can bring this world together. Whether it is a major corporation, because we change the world bit by bit, okay? And so we change the world with our words. I want speakers to know that they are world changers through their words, and that we can shift our world through unity, one company at a time, one association at a time, one college at a time, one chamber of commerce, whatever setting you are in, wherever you are in the world, that you are an ambassador of change for the better. And that when you are doing so, okay, it works out for everyone. And you change the bottom line of your organization, of the company, as well as your own bottom line. I mean, that's what we're here. We're talking about. We're talking about, we do this so that we can keep roofs over our head. But you are changing the world for the better, and your bottom line at the same time, and your client's bottom line at the same time. So I want them to remember that you are a world changer, and that your words change the world.
Lisa, what is a question that you would like to ask a future guest on this show?
The one question that I would ask an individual is, what is the one thing that is not business related, but that's a game changer in your life? What's that one thing that you do when you wake up, or before you go to bed, or during the day, that's not really, writing a speech or researching or making notes or checking your CRM? What is it that you do personally that changes who you are physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, so that you can be the best version of yourself when you do hit the stage?
Love it. Well, let's do a quick recap then based on Lisa's doctoral and cultural advice. Number one, remember that as professional speakers, not just speakers, but professional ones, we are researchers by nature. Don't just research the data, though. You should put on a cultural lens and not just research the company or the problem or the solution. Remember that your message may be universal, but people are different and they hear locally. Number two, other than just the cultural research, ask how you can do a pre-presentation survey. We do post-presentation surveys all the time, but getting better research beforehand makes a better connection with the audience. Number three, when thinking of tides changing, you have to know who you are. What is your purpose as a speaker? There's the topic that sells or the one that truly resonates to your purpose. You have to be smart with your business, but she rightly says that the world has no shortage of money. She stays true to her purpose, and with that belief, it will help her continue to make a good income as well. Stay true to who you are. Dr. Brown, I'm looking forward to seeing you at Thrive in Orlando in 2025. Any last closing thoughts before we speak ourselves off this stage?
The only closing thought that I can think of is that we make sure that we remember that we can change the world with our words, and we are world shifters.
Fantastic. Friends, make sure to join us at Speakernomics.com and let your voice be heard. I am Kenneth Kinney, your host of the National Speakers Association's podcast, Speakernomics. And this has been another fantastic episode of the show. Dr. Brown, thank you for your service to NSA and for lending your voice to the show. And everyone listening, thank you for the privilege of your time. And remember that Speakernomics is a podcast where you'll learn to speak, get paid, repeat.